In 1959, 12 nations gathered to sign a treaty that would effectively seal an entire continent from the rest of the world. Antarctica, once a frontier for explorers and industrialists, was suddenly designated as a land of scientific interest only, protected from territorial claims and resource extraction. The official narrative tells us this was a triumph of environmental protection and Cold War diplomacy. However, a deeper look at the years leading up to this lockdown, specifically the intensive surveys conducted between 1946 and 1958, suggests a different motivation. Before the treaty was signed, Antarctica was not viewed as a barren wasteland, but as a treasure trove of mineral wealth. Surveys conducted by various nations revealed deposits of coal, iron ore, copper, gold, platinum, and uranium that rank among the largest known reserves on the planet. The Ross Sea alone is estimated to hold 180 billion barrels of oil equivalent. These surveys exist, they were declassified in the 1990s, yet the treaty ensures that no one can act on this information until at least 2048. The mystery deepens when you realize that the Arctic was subjected to similar closures in the same decade. The question remains, why did nations that were otherwise pointing nuclear weapons at each other find such immediate, unanimous agreement on locking down both ends of the Earth? The clues lie in the anomalies discovered during those final years of open exploration. In the Arctic, specifically the Svalbard archipelago, mining operations in the mid-20th century began uncovering items that defied the established timeline of human history. Soviet miners in 1937 discovered worked wood, textile fibers, and smelted iron fragments at depths that should have been millions of years old. Carbon dating on the wood later returned dates between 1200 and 1400 CE, a period when Svalbard was officially uninhabited and undiscovered. Even more jarring was the discovery of metallurgical slag at a depth of 600 meters in permafrost that had been frozen for 10,000 years. Smelting requires temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. To find industrial waste in 10,000-year-old ice suggests a level of technology and settlement that simply shouldn't exist in our current understanding of history. In Antarctica, the scale of these anomalies was even grander. Following World War II, the United States launched Operation High Jump, the largest Antarctic expedition ever mounted. Led by Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, the mission involved 4,700 personnel and dozens of ships and aircraft. Upon his return, Byrd gave a cryptic interview to a Chilean newspaper, warning that the U.S. needed to prepare for hostile action from aircraft capable of traveling from pole to pole at incredible speeds. When his official debriefings were partially declassified in 2004, they contained references to structures of indeterminate origin beneath the ice. By 1958, ice-penetrating radar surveys across the continent mapped the subglacial topography for the first time. What they found in the trans-Antarctic mountain range were rectilinear anomalies. In nature, tectonic processes produce curves, fractures, and irregular boundaries. Nature does not produce sustained straight edges and right angles at a scale of several kilometers. These geometric regularities, found beneath 2 miles of ice, suggested construction rather than geological formation. The data was classified in 1959, the same year treaty negotiations began. The composition of the Antarctic landscape itself presents further contradictions. The Antarctic holds massive coal reserves, which require ancient forests to form. While the standard tectonic model places Antarctica in a warmer position millions of years ago, the quality of the coal found does not match the surrounding rock. Much of it is anthracite, the highest rank of coal, requiring immense heat and pressure. However, the surrounding sandstone and shale layers are completely unmetamorphosed. They are sedimentary and unaltered. This mismatch suggests that the coal experienced intense heating from a source other than deep burial or volcanic activity, a source that did not affect the rock just inches away. It implies industrial-scale heating in a time frame and context that the scientific community is not prepared to discuss. Similar chemical anomalies were found in Lake Vostok, a subglacial lake buried under 4 kilometers of ice for 15 million years. When Russian teams finally sampled the water in 2001, they found dissolved minerals like copper and iron in concentrations that were too high and too uniform to be the result of natural leaching. The lead researcher noted that the chemistry resembled industrial runoff. However, he was unable to pursue this line of inquiry, citing the restrictions of the Antarctic Treaty. The patterns of closure across both poles suggest a coordinated effort to manage evidence that disrupts our modern narratives. If Antarctica or the Arctic contained evidence of prior industrial activity or settlement at scales that predate our recorded history, every territorial claim and historical framework would be compromised. The solution was to lock the regions down under the guise of environmentalism, a movement that didn't even have significant political power until a decade after the treaty was signed. Today, the evidence remains beneath the ice: the anthracite, the metallurgical slag, the radar returns of geometric structures, and the industrial chemistry of subglacial lakes. These findings aren't hidden, they are managed. They are framed within conservative interpretations that preserve the legitimacy of our current institutions. But as the Antarctic Treaty approaches its 2048 renegotiation date and climate change opens new routes in the Arctic, these institutional controls are beginning to weaken. Independent researchers are now looking at the same declassified archives and asking the uncomfortable questions that the 1958 team first encountered. The poles were closed for a reason, and that reason has more to do with our forgotten past than our forgotten future.